Hey there and welcome to this new video. As always, this is Mikhail or Michael speaking. Before the video starts, I want to say thank you all who decided to support me financially, be it through Patreon, PayPal or Super Thanks. I really appreciate your generosity and help, so thank you friends and have a good day. Now today's video I will start with the city of Avdiivka, where as a result of successful offensive actions, Russian forces were able to significantly advance to the north of the city and successfully entered Avdeevka. Here on your screen you can see exactly how much territories Russians were able to acquire in the last 24 hours. As a result of this attack, this entire area which Ukrainians were controlling before this attack happened became dangerously isolated from the remaining Ukrainian force. Consequently, this forced Ukrainian forces to retreat from this entire area, leaving it in the gray zone. If we zoom in, we can see that a small strip of land is still connected to those said territories, but as you can see, Ukrainians took defensive positions along more convenient and suitable defensive lines. Although this front is extremely shallow, as you can see, Ukrainians here have no space to maneuver. And with constant Russian bombardments here in this area, Ukrainian forces defending this strip of land play a role of sitting ducks without having an ability to defend here effectively. Although the loss of territory here really hurts for Ukrainian defenders, it seems that the worst is yet to come, as Russians swiftly advance through this dacha area towards the city proper and entrench themselves within its outskirts. They have now gained an ability to storm the city directly from all possible directions. The seriousness of situation is such that, as you can see, Avdeevka is a fairly long city, however not very wide. So the distance between these Russian positions and this edge of Avdeevka is around 1 kilometer. If Russian army is to successfully continue their advance in this area and capture these portions of the territory, they will be able to effectively split Ukrainian army into two separate pieces, one located extremely isolated and much bigger portion of the city, and a much smaller one to the very north with a factory that is located here. And if that is to happen, and it seems that Russians are trying to make it happen, Ukrainian defenders in the factory, or so-called Avdiivka coke plant, will find themselves in a much better situation as their brethren in the south. As you can see, at least 3 roads lead to this sector. But when it comes to the southern part, only one road leads there. And what doesn't help is that this road is extremely close to the Russian positions and is under complete Russian fire control. As you can see, this is a potential collapse of the entire defense of the city in the making. And if Ukrainians will not able to stop Russians from advancing, this from just speculation can become a grim reality for the Ukrainian defenders. The news of this current Russian advance is fairly new, and it is unclear how exactly Ukrainians reacted to this. But perhaps similar to the situation in the south, where Ukrainians are currently counterattacking in attempt to repel Russian attacks and force them out of the bridgehead, we might as well expect the same situation here, with of course a big exemption that this situation is much more serious. So Ukrainians, in order to save the situation, must attack and attack non-stop. At this point in time, not only do I want to ask you to consider supporting this video by any means you consider necessary, as this will greatly increase this video's possibility of being shown to more and more people, but also commenting on this whole situation and the probability of this happening. Then from here, let's visit the situation on the southern front. Like stated previously in the video, Ukrainians continuously attack here in attempt to throw Russians back. However, the situation is slightly different around so-called Cheburashka stronghold. Here Russians are under constant attack in attempt to not allow Ukrainians to regroup, regain cohesion, and counterattack Russians here as well. Due to the close proximity of this stronghold, Ukrainian-Russian attacks in this area were repelled by the Ukrainian forces. However, the situation is different to the east of Apitne, where as a result of successful offensive operations, Russians captured this much territory from the Ukrainian side. Not only does this increase the buffer zone in between Ukrainian forces and the village of Apitne, it also helps Russians to advance in the direction of so-called Cheburashka stronghold. And now with the attacks coming from the east, south, and now from the west, the probability of the stronghold falling is increasing significantly. As this kind of fighting continues, Russians heavily bombard Ukrainian positions along this rail line with TLC-1 or Солнцепёк flamethrower system, which you can see here on your screen. With regular artillery and constant aviation raids, this kind of strikes greatly decrease Ukrainian capabilities of fighting here in this sector. Yet again, this is a great show of the fact that Russians are using combined arms tactic to advance here in this area. Then from here, let's discuss the situation within the settlement of Marinka, or to be more specific, to the northwest of it, where Russians continue their advance in the general direction of Ukrainian-controlled village of Grigorivka. As a result of offensive operations that occurred here within the last weeks, Russian forces were able to advance within the open fields and capture this much territories from the Ukrainian side. This territorial gain was in attempt to reach and capture the stronghold that is located here. As you can see, Russians reached those tree lines that are adjacent to this stronghold, which will allow them to storm positions within those set tree lines, and then start the storming operation of this particular stronghold. As Russians attack, they use all means necessary to destroy Ukrainian forces before they advance. For example, here on this video, Russians were spotted using cluster munitions, as well as using, yet again, TOC-1 Солнцепёк flamethrower systems wildly across the entire front. With all the footage provided, we can see the general and subtle increase of artillery use all across the fronts of the Russo-Ukrainian war. This shows that despite some claims, Russians do not have any shell hunger. From Marinka, let's move to Bahmut and also discuss the situation here. On the interesting note, Ukrainians decided to go on the counterattack not only on the northern flank, but also on the southern one. They were mostly recorded counterattacking near Klishchiivka, with the most intense of these counterattacks coming in the direction of currently Russian-controlled tactical heights and a vital stronghold located on the hill. But as far as I know, there are no territorial changes to report. The situation is slightly different on the northern flank, where Ukrainians were reportedly counterattacking in and around village of Bogdanivka, and as a result of that were able to recover some of the territories lost previously. About 2 days ago, they advanced ever slightly within Bogdanivka, and in the last 24 hours they were able to advance yet again, further expanding their zone of control in the village and surrounding areas. At this point in time, it is very hard to tell whether this is an initiative of a one single commander who saw an opportunity and used it, or a precursor of something much bigger. But in general, this is the only place where Ukrainians were able to successfully retake territories. In other places, all across the front, Ukrainian attacks were repelled. Now at last, let's move all the way to the Kupiansk front line and discuss the situation here as well. Russian forces continue their advance within the forested area that is located in between Liman Pershi and Sinikivka, in an obvious attempt to envelop Sinikivka from all sides and force Ukrainian forces defending it to retreat. However, so far Russians were unable to advance to the east of Sinikivka, but had a better luck within the forested area. Although there are no territorial changes to report, latest news coming from this area suggests that Russians resume their attacks, and as a result of that, Ukrainian forces were forced to retreat to a better suitable positions within the forest. As you can see, slowly but surely Ukrainians are continue to retreat, and if the dynamic continues the way as it is, soon Ukrainian forces will find themselves back to the Oskol River. This, of course, is a primary goal of the Russian forces advancing here. Of course, as Russians advance here, they too use extensive amount of artillery and aviation. For example, here on this video, you can see Russian helicopter firing upon Ukrainian positions, somewhere in front of the advancing Russian formations. But again, generally speaking, Russian offensive here had significantly slowed down, and the fighting here is mostly of positional style of warfare. With this, I gladly end this video. Hopefully it was to your liking and was informative enough. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day, and always remember, Russia will be free and great.